Hey, boys and girls, welcome back to the Smoking Barrels Podcast.
Yeah, we did it. We made it to episode 3. This is only... How many more of these do you got?
Several. Can this hero get a God bless and a share? It's like the greatest hits of the worst shit on social media.
Alright, welcome back to episode 3 of the Barrels Podcast with me, Mike, and of course Ben, who you heard.
Episode 3!
It
Woohoo!
was spiking. That's what you do for episode 100, not episode 3. Nobody's like, yeah, we did it. We made it to episode 3.
I was just really happy
Woo.
with your intro. That was a
Good.
great intro.
Thank you. I'm just that damn good.
Oh, it actually blew my voice out a little bit. I just wanted to fuck up your intro a little
And
bit.
I believe you spiked the microphone for it too, as well.
I'm sure I'll have to edit that down. So listen, I've got something to talk about.
Fantastic.
This guy, he's a friend of mine that I don't see him all the time, but I don't like unfollow him on Facebook because I don't dislike him or anything. So it's interesting, if he's going out or like it's his anniversary or whatever, I'm like, oh, good, I'll like that or whatever. So I keep him around on Facebook for that reason. But his Facebook feed is the most cancerous, worst feed. It's like the greatest hits of the worst shit on social media. All right. So I've got it pulled up here. We're just going to come down. I'm going to scroll through it a little bit. So this is only 2 weeks ago I'm starting, and all this shit has been posted in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
So the first is a picture of a veteran and Donald Trump in the White House he's got like all 4 limbs fucked up and all that stuff. So it's supposed to be like an inspiring thing.
Right.
And he is, I'm sure, as an individual.
Right.
But it's like most people won't even share this veteran. Can this hero get a God bless and a share ? ! Exclamation point. And it's like, does he want to share?
Yeah, well,
I mean, like, what do you think this, like, is this your... Well, most people won't even share this. I'm like, yeah, I won't because it has nothing to do with me. I don't make a habit out of just sharing random shit for no reason.
I don't think he really cares. I think you think the God blesses and shares are really going to make his life any better.
No, what does a share do? I don't even understand. Like all these, and half of them are like that. Okay, next one. 2 days later, there's a picture of a etched monument into. I don't even know where this is. It says Stone Mountain. Apparently, this is some kind of monument to presumably Civil War generals or something. And it says, the NAACP wants this sandblasted, all caps, off Stone Mountain. Like and share this post if you think it should be left alone, all caps.
What the NAACP is going to do what the hell they want. I don't get... This is only... How many more of these do you got?
Several. You know how many shares it got?
How many?
1.
Nice. It's probably from his mother.
He's probably affected quite a bit of change there. Okay. Coming up here. This is 6 days after that. No, 5 days after that. Sorry. There's a picture of a super adorable, here I'm holding it up so you can see it.
Okay.
Really cute golden retriever. And it says, our golden has terminal lymphoma, and my wife said yesterday was a bad day for him. This is how I found out after my sister and I got home from work. Please don't scroll without sending them some love. And then he said, I bet this won't even get 1 share.
How many shares did you get?
None. So
Well, he was right.
No, but my point is like, what is that? Why do people do this?
I love that. My golden retriever is dying, but you know how it's going to make me feel better? If people tell me how much they like me on Facebook.
Next one, same day. God bless everyone who will share this post. Amen. It's a picture of a crude wooden cross.
Okay.
I mean, it's got 2 shares. Like, what is this stuff? This is just like, this is the equivalent of unsolicited junk mail in my social media feed.
Well, in his defense in that one, I have heard that when you get to the pearly gates now, if you didn't like share that post from 40 years ago on Facebook, St. Peter kicks you straight down to hell.
Yeah,
that's what I hear. I haven't been there, so I don't know, but bear with me. That might be it.
Well, you know what? You're probably right.
He's trying to save your eternal soul, Ben.
This one, I'm considering unfollowing him because this one, again, not even, I mean, this is all in the last day for him, right? Or the last day of that day, right? Mm-hmm. The dog through this one. Lord, release 5 miracles over the person reading this within an hour. Say amen and share if you believe, all caps. God can do it. It's got two comments, 2 shares.
I will say this. I think miracles should probably be reserved for people that like need them, not for like if you want a car.
Not if 5 people share this.
No.
Like, I don't understand the thinking here.
Good. I need 5 miracles right now. $1 million, brand new car. People listen to this podcast. That's only 3. I don't need 5 miracles.
Here's the one that really got me. There's a picture of a really sick, cute little girl who apparently has needs a kidney transplant.
Right.
And he said, he reshared this. She gets $1 for every time this picture is shared, and it goes towards her kidney transplant. What in what world? I mean, what? So let me get this straight. Somebody's saying, I've got $10,000 to give her, but I'm not gonna unless this fucking picture gets shared, and then she gets 1 per share. I mean, what the? Who? In what world is that happening anywhere?
My question is, where does he get the $10,000 worth of ones at? Does he go
Yeah,
to one
right.
bank or several banks?
Does somebody really think that somebody's holding out on this girl until they share her picture?
Yeah.
What goal would that even serve
you
for
need
anybody?
10,000 likes. You only got 9,999. So good luck on that kidney.
Yep. Sorry, I got the money to give you, but I can't do it unless you get enough fucking shares. I don't even understand. And I think he's doing this unironically. Like, he knows these. He doesn't know these are terrible, and that I have to see these in my feed.
No, I mean, it's got to be really gross to be like, I'm trying to get likes and shares based off like this. I don't even know if the kid's sick, but they probably are. Let's just assume they are. If that is true, that's kind of disgusting. How it's like, I need some kind of notification and all that shit on Facebook because hey, come on.
Sorry, that was super unprofessional. My phone just rang. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, I need some sort of what's it called, validation on Facebook because I'm a piece of shit, and that's how I get my rocks off, instead of being like, how would I just donate $10 to this kid if they are actually sick?
Yeah, I just love the idea that somebody's holding out until they get the requisite amount of shares and likes. No. Here's another one. This is same day as the sick girl post. It's a picture of the American flag. Whoops. It's a picture of the American flag. Here I am. It's fabulous. It says, liberals are saying the American flag is offensive to Muslims. Share if you don't give a damn. I'm like, who is this for?
Wait.
First of all, they get no likes and 1 share.
Wait, who says that though?
Liberals are saying
Liberals are saying, if you could point me to one post that says that, I will consider sharing.
Oh, here's the most cancerous. Look, it's a entire huge picture full of X's, and it says there's 1 A in there. Share if you found it like a boss.
Okay, well, did you find the A?
I haven't looked. I got things to do, including anything else.
So that means you are not a boss?
I got to, breathing is more interesting than looking for the A and sharing it if I found it like a boss.
I found it like a boss. It only took me 3 days.
Jesus Christ. That was just, my only word for his social media feed is cancerous. It is cancerous. Oh, I hate it. Anyway, what do you got?
All right, so I remember last episode you wanted me to tell you about the time I got kicked out of a frat when I was a freshman in college.
Oh, do tell.
So basically I went to this frat, and I knew as soon as I signed the thing when they gave me the bid that I did not belong there because I was just so uncomfortable around the entire thing. And I was like, this is not the place for me. But I decided to pull through, and you had to carry around this red binder, and it had all these interviews and stuff in there that you had to do. And to get an interview, it was you had to write down all their stuff, and then they give you a task. And there was one guy in particular, this big fat jackass, who apparently got this done to him, and he cried about it. And so he wanted to get revenge. So he tried to get me to take pictures of my shit and send it to people who did that to him the year before and made him cry about it.
Pictures of
my feces.
I thought, okay, that's still bad, but not as bad as what I thought.
And I was like, I'm not in kindergarten. And I basically gave him a top 10. It's like a David Letterman top 10 list of why the hell that was the stupidest thing ever. And I'm not going to do it. And he was like, you're never going to effing get in this fraternity. I'm going to make sure of it. I'll do everything in my power. And I texted him back. I'm like, good, come at me, bitch. And so that was strike one.
Very strange.
I know. I thought I'm 18. I'm not 6. I'm not going to do this. And then, but they took really big offense to that. So then a guy had me write an apology letter to him, and I was like, no, he should apologize to me because, I didn't want to do that, and he tried to force me to, and it's bullshit. So he didn't like that either. I also got my red binder stolen by another frat. We called them Sigma Chach because, but they basically I had to go to the bathroom one time, and I left my red binder out, and they took all the paper from my red binder, and I said, I know you fucking guys took it, give it back to me. And there was three big ass dudes. Well, actually, it was two big ass dudes and this like sniveling little creep skinny kid. Like, so it was kind of like a guy and his goons.
Yeah.
And they were like,
henchmen.
right. And I was like basically like ready to throw down for it. And I was like, I want my shit back. Come at me. And they were basically like, we're gonna kick your ass, and you have them around you. No, we're going to. And they like grabbed my shirt collar. And I was like, god damn it. I can't fight three people. I can fight the sniveling little creep, but I can't fight his goons.
Yeah.
So I lost that, and then I got a big lecture about that. And so between me being a horrible pledge and giving them my top 10 reasons why this shit was stupid, and me almost getting into a fight for them to take a piece of fucking paper, is why I got kicked out of Teak, which is good because they got put on probation for the red binder thing.
All of them?
Within the next semester, yeah. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
I think Mason had a similar experience where he goes, a friend of mine who went to the same college as you, and it was like, what is all this nonsense happening? Like, I got to pay, and you're paying for the privilege of this annoying, inconvenient, odd experience.
Right.
I just don't understand. There was only one frat and one sorority at Bellarmine where I went, and I just had no interest in either. Because honestly, it's like, I think, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I think that the kids that felt like they missed out on something socially in high school are the ones that end up in frats and sororities.
Right.
For the most of them. Obviously, there's probably some that band together and are the same type socially as they were in high school. But it's like, I'm going to join that and, do all these crazy things and all this stuff because I feel like I wasn't popular enough in high school.
Right.
I mean, it's a total inferiority complex.
It's basically like you pay and like basically beg for the privilege to be treated like an asshole for 3 to 5 months, and then after that you get to turn around and do it to other people. And it's like, no, if you want to stop the system, then you yourself need to be like, no, I'm not going to do this bullshit to people. I'm just going to, if I like them, they're going to be in, and we're going to do it. I don't have to break them down and mold them into something I want them to be instead of just taking them at face value. Isn't that
is what? Like molding him into what?
Molding him into a douchebag.
Exactly.
Parties and, rapes chicks and shit.
We probably shouldn't say that that's indicative of the whole.
Well, no, but there were frats that like got in a lot of trouble pretty consistently for roofing chicks and stuff, and it's pretty disgusting.
But it's also entirely predictable. I mean, you get together these animals and you're like, here's presumably they're not that intelligent, most of them, for the social frats. The ones I do understand, like I think my little brother's in an engineering honors fraternity or whatever, and if I'd continued at Bellarmine on that normal path or whatever, and then I would have been in the history honors, whatever it is, fraternity for the majors. And if you're going to work in that field, history was kind of pointless. But for him, other engineers graduating from a school, it's good to have those connections. But the social ones where they just wear robes and drink shit out of like bathtubs. You ever seen this?
Yeah.
Apparently this is like a thing from the 80s that people still do. I think originally my parents told me about this, and I was like, God, I'm glad people don't do that anymore. But then I saw somebody doing it.
They do.
And I was like, that's disgusting. I don't understand. Like, you're paying to be here at the school, and you're also paying to be in this group. Why? Why? Do you need friends? Like, you trying to purchase friends that badly?
It's all based around like the idea of getting chicks. Honestly, I think for women, it's like we're I have people to hang out with, and for guys, it's like, yeah, man, we're gonna party, we're gonna get chicks, and all these chicks are gonna think we're so cool because we're gonna frat.
It's ridiculous.
The whole thing's
so
ridiculous.
Stupid.
It's the stupidest ever thing on the planet.
I mean, you get out in the real world, and that shit doesn't count for anything.
Hey, man, I was in a frat. Cool.
That makes me like you slightly less.
I'm gonna need you to mop this floor for me, Johnson.
Yeah, for real. Oh man, let's see what else is a topical issue we can discuss. Here's a good one. You have been a very staunch defender of the Second Amendment.
Right.
How do you feel about these 3D printable guns? The plans for them.
Well, my thing about them is the fact that it's hard. Like, nobody owns a 3D printer really, because 3D printers are.
My little brother's got one at home.
Really?
Yeah. I could buy one tomorrow for a couple $100.
Yeah. Okay.
They're getting and even if they will become accessible.
Right. As of right now, I don't see where, if you have a 3D printer, if it's really going to be producing quality stuff, because as of now, it's not. And I think it'll take a while for it to improve, because 3D printers have been around for, a few years now, and they still haven't improved a ton. So I think, if it's not able to produce something that's not going to break basically within 10 minutes, like a gun would, because it has to function in so many different ways, then I think it's really not that big of a deal. I think a 3D printer is having to go out, get the schematic, get the stuff for it, get all this, like all these things to put it together, instead of going on trying to buy an AR-15. Like, one sounds way cheaper in the long run, at least, because you don't have to like upkeep with an AR-15. You just have to like maintenance it and stuff, like wash it and stuff. With a 3D printer, you have to make sure the whole thing works and like properly and everything. One seems way more reasonable than going out and getting a 3D printer. So to me, it's more about background checks and basically selling guns than getting a 3D printer, because I don't think somebody is getting a 3D printer is specifically going out and trying to harm people, especially due to the fact that, like, if they tried to, their gun would break in 20 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of them. But, I mean, that's not necessarily a long-term policy solution, because the technology is going to get better. I mean, just look at the home PC, right? I mean,
right.
It took up a whole room 40 years ago, and now we've got the most, more computing power in the cell phone than took us to the moon for the first time. So I have no doubt that eventually I will have the option, or at least the technical capability, 15 years from now.
But it's also made, like, the materials made with it. Because what is a 3D printer made of? Because I don't make, like, what do they make it out of? Like silicon and stuff? Or plastic?
My little brother told me, he's really into this kind of stuff. He told me once, I can't remember, but basically it's very much like a printer. That's why they call it a printer. Mm-hmm. It's got the spool of some kind of plastic composite or something like that, and then it molds it as it prints the 3D object. It heats it so that it'll mold together.
Right.
So, admittedly, the home ones now, you could make a gun that might work like once.
Yeah.
But later on, you got to figure 15 years from now, if this is a profitable technology, which it seems that it is, that they're going to be able to do it. So, how do we regulate? Like, I mean, what if we, like, obviously we draw the line somewhere. Everyone does. Even the people that say there should be no restrictions. Well, okay, do you want somebody to have a nuclear bomb at home? No, of course not. No. Nobody wants that. So the line has to be somewhere in between nuclear bomb and no one can own any guns.
Right.
And I'm saying where in that ball, we're all playing ball within that field. Right. So where in that field does the printable weapons? Because can I print an RPG? Like, I mean, you got to...
Right. I mean, I think it just comes down to the amount that, like how big is your brother's 3D printer? Is it big enough to hold the average AR-15?
Well, no, but you print it you print them in parts.
You print them in parts and put them together?
Yeah, you print it in various the components of it, not as a whole thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know if it would be able to function. So, I mean, I know you keep saying the technology will get better, but I mean, I don't want to say until it does, we'll figure it out then, because that'll be too late. At the same time, though, I don't think it's a pressing need as of right now. These are other things we need to take care of to regulate 3D printing, because I just think it's not, like I've said, it's not cost effective. It doesn't make any sense. You could go out and buy a 3D printer, but you also have to buy schematics and you have to buy certain things. You have to keep up with it compared to just going out and buying a handgun, which is, a way cheaper experience or thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that that's the reality on the ground today.
But it's more of a matter of...
Laws need to preempt. They shouldn't be in response to.
It's more of a matter of how far do you think the technology versus how far other people think the technology will be. I personally don't know if the technology will be all that far, considering it's made out of a certain plastic and not like a metal or a steel. Like,
you make guns out of plastics?
You can? Can it really withstand the heat of all that? And
yeah, of course. What do you think most guns today are made out of? They're made out of plastic composites.
So they're made out of metal.
No, they have steel barrels, a lot of them. There's plenty of steel components, but no, the vast majority of them. You think about like a handgun. It's all plastic. You're holding a piece of plastic. It's heavy-duty plastic. I mean, am I wrong? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that.
You might be right.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the barrel and the mag have steel or something, but the rest of it's plastic.
What about bullets?
Well, they're not made of plastic.
Well, I know, but it's not made of plastic. But like, do you think? Think it could hold a?
I don't think it's a stretch to say that down the line you can make 3D printable objects out of a plastic that it. I mean, look at the tensile strength of carbon fiber.
Right.
It's better than the steel we usually make cars out of, and it's a plastic composite type thing, right? So I mean, or carbotanium. It's carbon and titanium. Mm-hmm. That's like the strongest material to make a body of a car out of, stronger than steel even. So I don't think it's a stretch to say we will have the ability to do so. I mean, philosophically, like you presumably would be in favor of saying, no, it's not about I mean, I shouldn't be prevented from doing something because there's some crazy people out there
Right.
who might take advantage of it. I mean, I just, in general, I think you would probably be in favor of it based on what I know about your political opinions.
Right.
So I just thought that was interesting. It's very sci-fi that we're getting to the point where, the, what do they call it? The thing on Star Trek that prints all the food or makes all the food.
I don't know what you're talking about. I can't think of what it is.
Yeah, and it's like you just go, "Boop," and it's like a spaghetti and meatballs appears. Like if we get to that point, then I think we really need to evaluate what, there should be some regulation.
I think we'll have to wait to regulate it for a little bit. I think the technology will have to advance to the point where, maybe not where it's too late, but the point where the problems will become more apparent than just like, oh, some idiot might get a piece of crap gun that will be able to they'll shoot maybe once that won't go off and it'll basically explode in their hand.
Yeah.
Like I think we'll have to wait a little bit. It'll be 5-10 years down the road before there's a legitimate need for regulation.
Well, you may be right. I just, I like to get out in front of problems potentially.
Right.
We were talking the other day about how law as it exists today failed to adequately preempt the rise of the internet.
Right.
And how these antitrust laws still allowed for basic monopolies like Facebook and YouTube and Amazon.
I have another question. Where do you get like a schematic for something? Where did you find it on the internet?
Yeah, of course.
Well, then you can go on the dark web. You could find I feel like finding that stuff, even if you blocked it all up, if you try to get rid of it, you'd still be able to find it, right? Because you can find anything on the internet.
I would think so. I mean, yeah, that's a different question. I mean, you're right. Yeah, I mean, like torrenting. Stealing stuff, stealing software online and all this stuff. It's super common. And right now it's even still a legal gray area because we don't know quite where the responsibility lies. Like obviously I'm choosing to download this.
Right.
But somebody put it up there, right? And then somebody put it up there on a platform that's hosted by a company that allows this to happen.
Right.
It's given to me by an ISP, an internet service provider that allows me a connection to access the website. And it's like there's such a diffusion of responsibility as to it's not just like, people used to say stealing online is like stealing in person.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
No.
It'd be the equivalent of if I was to walk in and steal a laptop from a store, somebody would have had to have given me a ride there, told me where to find it, jacked up the price of the other thing that if I wanted to buy it legally, and then say, well, you may or may not get caught. We don't quite know where the responsibility lies, and then I take it. So, I mean, it's totally different. It's not black and white.
Right.
But I just thought that was interesting. It's like we're entering into a era now, and have been, I guess, arguably for the last 15 years or so, where technology is very quickly outpacing legal precedent. Right. So I think we need to, I'm not sure quite what the solution to that is, but I think we need to have a lot of experts who are working closely with government to make sure that existing law, at least in spirit, can cover these 21st century technologies that no one could expect. What was that story? We went out and got something to eat before we started. What was that story you were saying about something about flip-flops or
there? So where I work at,
sounded funny.
At not Walmart, the red one. I'm just gonna keep calling it that because I think it's funnier than like
people don't understand that.
That's fine.
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't care.
You work at
not Walmart,
Target.
Anyway, your words, not mine. So I had to go to the bathroom after I was on a break, and it was just. I walked in, and these two dudes were just, like, standing in the bathroom, like, not in front of the sinks, like, in the hallway where you take a right and go into the actual bathroom part. And there were these two dudes, like, on a Wednesday, in the middle of the day, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning, in flip-flops and cargo shorts with their arms crossed super close to each other going, just, like, having a conversation about, like, I don't know what, but I was very confused on what it was. And so I walked out, and I walked in, they were, like, looking at me weird, and then I went to the bathroom, I washed my hands, I walked back out, they were in the same exact spot, and looked at me weird again. I was even 20 minutes later with their wives on separate ends of the store, like sitting there, just going around shopping for nothing, and like they've never even seen each other before. It was a very sketch thing.
How strange.
I've never seen anything like it.
Two guys that presumably didn't know each other stopped for 20 minutes to talk to each other in a bathroom?
Yep.
Have you ever had any experience like that?
No.
I haven't either. A bathroom is not a place for idle conversation.
And I've been in sketchy places before.
That's
I don't
so
know.
Weird. Oh, Dave, I noticed you used the hand soap. It's a bit drying, isn't it?
Like I don't know if they like
nice flip flops, Dave.
They met on Grindr or something, or they're trying to keep it from their wives. Because that's the only thing that makes sense to me is like they went to the men's room so not be able to go in there with them, and they would just hash it out in there. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense.
So your theory is they had a discreet encounter.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the fact that, like, nothing else makes sense. Like, why would you be sitting there in the bathroom or standing there in the bathroom for that long with some random dude you clearly have never met before, what it seems like you've never met before, and you decide, you know what, it's time for a conversation. Like, I don't know. It's just weird because it's also like a public bathroom. We have like more private bathrooms to do this in.
That's a weird one. I mean, it's one of those things that, like, on the surface, you can't quite say what exactly is wrong with it, but something feels wrong about. Yeah. And I love how you decided there was 2 details that cracked me up. Mm-hmm. Flip-flops, and it was a Wednesday. Yeah. It's like, so these 2 guys are, let's paint the picture. All right. It's 1:45 p.m. on a Wednesday.
No, it's 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, God, that's even worse. It's 11 a.m. On a Wednesday. And 2 of these guys are in cargo shorts and flip-flops at a Target.
College shirts. They're well-dressed, except for the flip-flops.
Yeah, well, flip-flops. And then they decide that they see another guy, and they just had like a moment of revelation that, hey, this is me. So they stop and talk about what? I mean, what do you think they were talking about? Did you hear anything?
I just heard them, like, basically talking like a couple of dudes would, like about nothing, basically. It was just like they were shooting
weather,
the shit. Right, they were just shooting the shit. But it was like the fact that it was in a bathroom and they were dressed so similarly that, like, threw me off. Like, maybe they were switching places or something, like that movie Face Off.
Oh yeah, God, that movie's terrible.
Like, that's the only thing I could think of. Maybe they're just like, maybe we can get away with trading places for a bit.
Maybe they had formed like a lifelong friendship. Maybe you witnessed the birth of a beautiful friendship.
I hope so.
Flip-flops, cargo shorts, in a Target bathroom.
Instead of some...
Sounds like an indie band.
Right.
Excuse me.
I'd watch that. I'd listen to that band, especially at least their first album, because I feel like they got some good tracks on there.
Yeah, you don't want flip... What was it? I can't remember the name I just said. Something about flip-flops, 2 guys in a Target bathroom. Their follow-up album, they clearly sold out.
They clearly were like, you know what? It's time. We got our money. We got our listenership. We're good.
I got another controversial political issue to discuss if you're interested.
Let's do it.
I'm going to try and put this delicately because I don't want to offend anybody, but I will probably. So will you. That's just how we are.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying... I can't remember who was talking to me about it now, but somebody was saying that 2 lesbians adopted a boy, son, or whatever, and they were saying how great that was. And I was like, well, of course, if that's what they want, it's great. Right. The kid, of course, now has parents who I'm sure, I have no reason to doubt, love him very much, and that's great too. But I can't get around the fact that, that a young man and a young woman need a mix of masculine and feminine influence. I mean, there's 2 sides of the human psyche. There has been since the birth of the species, right? And that should we be encouraging? It's so hard to talk about this because the problem is, even by asking this question, I now am a bigot.
Right.
That's the problem, right? Because even by posing this question, which I'm trying to do as respectfully as I can, but it is a legitimate concern I have, would I have turned out, because I feel like I had great parents.
Right.
All in all, I got what I needed from both of them on a developmental level.
Right.
And I got a good relationship with both of them today. Now, I'm not questioning that I could still turn out well if I'd had 2 dads or 2 moms or whatever, but I don't think that I'd get the same level of emotional roundness that you would from having a present engaged father and a present engaged mother. I feel like, and I can't help but think that psychologically the experts would agree with me on this. I mean, from how long have we studied the human mind,
right?
And how often have we said how important the parents are in the development of a kid? So if you got 2 guys or 2 girls, you're of no fault of anyone's. Would you not get an overload of a certain type of emotional context? Too much masculine influence, too little? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you stand on that?
I mean, what I might say actually might shock you. I have no problem with the same sex like couples raising a kid. My problem with the thing has always been, as long as it needs to be 2 parents. It doesn't matter how they come or who they are. if they're men or women or whatever, as long as you have two parents, from what I found in the research and studies I've done, because I've had to do it for class, the kids end up okay, to where if they just have one parent, they end up needing some sort of mentor in some situation. So if you have a level of support from both parents, if you have this understanding and defend and like nurturing parent, and one is the authoritarian in it, as long as you have that, then you're fine. I mean, if a boy wants to act like a boy, I think they would have no problem letting him do that, letting him go do sports, letting him, because a boy can find mentors anywhere, just like a girl can find mentors anywhere. I mean, a boy, if he does sports, his football coach could be his mentor. He could have, an older friend or something, like at work or something, could be his mentor. So for me, it's always been, is it two parents? Yes. Then the kid, to me, will be perfectly fine.
Well, I mean, I'd like to believe you're right, but and look, I should say I haven't done in-depth research on this.
Right.
And I would, of course, if there develops a scientific consensus that proves that it's fine, then I'm on board with that. I'm not by any means set in my ways on this issue. But I do have concerns that in an age where I think you and I can agree, a lot of people our age are entirely too sensitive.
Yeah.
They're entirely too emotionally vulnerable. They're not tough enough. And I know that's a shitty thing to say, and it's overgeneralizing perhaps, but that has definitely been my experience. I mean, going to college for both of us,
Right.
people just want to be shut away in their own little safe space, right? And I think that's fucking ridiculous, quite frankly, to put it bluntly. So I worry that and I don't know, I should emphasize again, but I worry that, if we start encouraging this, where does the buck stop in these kids that are completely just sheltered politically, intellectually, emotionally from influence? Like the masculine and feminine influence, it works in concert, but it's also sort of at odds. Not always, but in some ways. And not to go Freudian on you, but learning emotional maturity and all that stuff, I would think probably comes more from a great mother figure.
Right.
And learning about, personal responsibility, discipline, all that stuff, more kind of comes from the father. So if there's a more masculine woman and a more feminine woman that get together and can raise a kid, and the scientists say that that's no different,
right,
then more power to them. Fine, great. But why are we allowing it now before we know? Shouldn't we know first? I mean, these kids aren't going to get a do-over.
Right, but we're going to also not, I feel like it's just takes away from their rights in general. I feel like if you want to have a kid, and you want to, give it the opportunities it's not going to have otherwise, you should be able to do it. If you're two stable, loving parents regardless, and you want a kid and you can give them, a college education, you can give them a home, then by all means you should have that, considering there are a lot of terrible parents that are different genders that just raise complete shithead kids. They raise their kids as a friend and not a parent, and there are a lot of people I've come across in my life so far that I would be like, I'd rather you not have a kid. If there are two same-sex parents that are like, we're gonna teach this kid discipline regardless of what kind of discipline it is, we're gonna raise a law-abiding good citizen of this world, and we're gonna give them an education, and we're gonna try to make them successful so they can help other people in whatever line of work they do, then I'd rather give them a kid than somebody who's just gonna be like, yeah, bro, what's up? Oh yeah, you're drinking and you're 14. That's cool, man. It's whatever. To me, the same-sex aspect doesn't matter. It's, are you good parents, and are there two of them?
Well, that's a good point of view. And honestly, if I do some research and find that psychologically the studies show that that's the case, that you're right, that it doesn't make a difference as long as there's present engaged parents, then I'm happy to get on board with that.
Right.
Because obviously I would love for every kid that doesn't have a home to have one.
Right.
But I feel like that's a good place to leave off. We're going to take a break real quick, get something to drink, and then we'll come back for part 2. Smoking Barrels will be right back.
And now for something completely different.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Smoking podcast. Second half.
Had to do it again.
It's been halftime, and Ben had to redo that part. So thank you, Ben. So there There was something in the halftime break that you said you wanted to get to, so I will ask you now. What was this?
Yeah, it jogged my memory a little bit, rather, when we were talking about the influences on a kid growing up, the masculine, feminine, the social aspects that lead to emotional development and stuff. And there's something else going on that this was actually something I was unaware of until recently. And it was brought to my attention by a friend of mine who also expressed grave concerns, to put it mildly, over this. And I think I'll go a step further, but let me explain what I'm talking about first. There are, the BuzzFeed types. You know who I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. They are now applauding these parents, mainly from what I can tell on the West Coast, who are allowing their kid to transition genders at like age 7 and 6. And like not just, like my son wants to dress up in a dress, because I can't say that I ever did that, but that's not necessarily indicative of a huge problem. Mm-hmm. That could just be one of those things. But I'm talking about like hormone treatments and estrogen and sometimes like physical altercations and all this shit. And before I say what I have to say on it, I'll invite your opinion, because mine's quite concise.
When it comes to transgenderism, I think it's... Hang on, we'll leave the sirens go over.
There's an emergency apparently outside my house.
So, basically, I think it's wrong to be doing that to your kid, because I don't think they can make those decisions yet, unfortunately. I don't think... Like, your kid can't vote, they can't drink, they can't buy a gun, they can't drive a car, but they can determine what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life. I mean, the thing about hormone blockers is, once you start using them, if you take them off of it, they're not going to go back to normal. Like, I've heard plenty of people go, "Oh, it'll be fine. They'll just be like normal." No, they won't. That time for their body to develop these situations, like as they are as a boy or a girl, it's needed. And to take away any of that time is a huge problem. And another thing is the fact that it's like, I've seen things like this drag kid who's like 8 to 10 years old. And to me, it's disgusting, because you're sexualizing this kid as this big activist, and he's not. He's a child. I wouldn't want a child to be an activist for any one of my causes, regardless of how much I might like the idea of them growing up to be that. They're still a kid. So to have a kid make such a drastic decision on that to their life, and then being a parent and being like, yeah, that's fine, go ahead. No, you got to step in and be like, look, you can make that decision when you're 18, but for right now, we're just going to raise you like this, and if you want to wear a dress, you want it to be this, if you want to go by this, that's fine. But in terms of the medical things, no effing way.
Yeah, well, my answer is like, oh, what do you think about that? I think it's fucking child abuse. I'm not going to make any qualms about it. It's fucking ridiculous. I can't believe this is happening. I mean, what kind of post-common sense world are we living in, where it's like, you're 6-year-old, you're trusting to make a decision that is, I mean, it's beyond, I mean, we'll gloss over like our opinions about the whole transgender thing happening, right? Let's just talk about the kids at this point. I can't believe that you would trust a 7-year-old who says he wants to be like an astronaut. He doesn't know what, you don't pay much attention to what a 7-year-old says he wants to be when he grows up, because he doesn't know yet. Mm-hmm. Why is this any fucking different? I mean, I can't believe that. And it'd be different if it was just like, if my son came to me and was like, I think I'm a girl, right? I wouldn't be like, no, you're wrong. You're fucked up in the head. No, obviously you don't do that. Right. But if he wants to fucking dress up as a princess or whatever, like, internally I'm gonna be like, oh, that's kind of weird, but like, he's still my son. There's no issue. I don't have a problem with it. It's fine. Great. Fine. But there's studies that have been done by the American Psychiatric Association where something like 3/4 to 80% of the kids that say they should be the other gender grow out of it. Right. 80%. And I mean, I'd cite the study for you. Unfortunately, I didn't pull it up. I'll have to do that next time. But you can check it yourself. It's by a very reputable organization like the APA. And I cannot believe that is being applauded, not even tolerated. Right. It's being applauded. Right. It blows my goddamn mind, quite frankly. I mean, I can't think of anything worse, really, that can be done to it. Like, think about the psychological damage that would do to a kid who otherwise would have grown out of it. Now he's stuck in the wrong gender from the wrong gender from the wrong gender.
Right.
I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous in my mind.
I mean, to me, I see it as the parents kind of pushing it to push their political agenda, and that's
absolutely.
and that seems wrong. I would never have a kid push my political agenda for me. I would never like stand behind them and then be like, and then when they disagree with the kid, they'd be like, oh, or they disagree with me. You go, oh, well, you disagree with the kid. Then you hate children. You think children are idiots. Well, I mean, children aren't exactly the smartest people on the planet because they're children and
Not
don't
yet.
have life experience. I mean, so to me, that's what it comes down to. It comes down to the parents trying to push a political agenda instead of really looking out for what's best for their kid, and to medically change what their kid says they want to do at 8, which is, and it's not like they're sick and they need help. It's like they want to be this, so you do this. Are you going to, like a kid says, I want to get a tattoo, a big tattoo sleeve. Are you going to let him make that body modification?
Of course not.
At 7 years old?
No.
No. It's, in a way, it's a body modification. It's a lot more complex than that. But at the same time, no, it's not, because you're sitting there modifying how your body and like reacts to certain hormones and estrogen and testosterone. So if you wouldn't let your kid modify their body a certain way at 7 because you think, oh, that's stupid, then I wouldn't let my kid modify their body that way because I think it pushes a political agenda. They can grow up, be trans, and then have that surgery and make those decisions when they're adults. They can grow up to be LGBT activists or even part of the community. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But to have your kid go through something like that, and for them to be like, oh, I don't want to be that anymore. It's not as simple as I'm going to take them off the drugs. No, you're not. Like it's you can take them off the drugs, but the damage is already done.
Absolutely, psychologically and physiologically. Right. I can't believe this is a debate. I can't believe this is an issue that's up for debate. I mean, I don't even quite know how to say it other than it's fucking child abuse.
Yep.
I can't believe, and you hit it right on the head when it's a political agenda. People are so deathly afraid of being seen as anything less than the most tolerant people in the world that they don't even want to question these kind of behaviors. I mean, I see this all the time. Just by bringing up these kind of issues, people be like, well, I mean, are you transphobic? Are you homophobic and all this stuff? And I'd be like, no, I just have fucking grave concerns, unanswered questions, quite frankly, before we allow these 6-year-olds, I shouldn't even say, while we allow the parents of these 6-year-olds to decide to, get this, his boy is now a daughter or the son is now a daughter, all this stuff. I mean, how many, first of all, like, how many switches are going to occur? You know what I'm saying? Over the course of growing up, if that is seen as an option, then everybody's going to do it. Every kid's going to be, oh, maybe I should be a girl. Maybe I should be a boy. Like, only because if they're told from birth that it's an option, that it's something that's changeable. Yeah, I mean, and I hate to be a hard ass on this, but like, I mean, I've said this before. How tall are you?
5'9".
Okay, why aren't you 6'3"?
I killed me 6'3". I'm just not because of, genetics.
Basic genetic biological factors. It is a non-reality. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, not to be an asshole, but it's the same goddamn thing. I mean, I don't understand how this is what world we're living in now, and I don't want to harp on this issue too much, but it's just, I can't believe that this is happening. I think that should be stopped now.
All right,
I can't believe that that's happening.
What do you think about the concept of babies?
What's that?
Babies are what these same, like, similar West Coast parents are kind of doing, where they don't assign their child a gender at birth. They make everything gender neutral, and they allow them to pick whatever gender they want to be at the age of 3 or 4, and then they raise them that gender. It doesn't involve hormones and stuff like that. It just involves how they raise them. So a girl goes, oh, I want to be raised as a boy. Then you give them, like, trucks, and you paint everything blue, and you raise them as a boy, even though they're, genetically a girl.
But that's the thing, is girls can play with trucks.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, fine. That's fine. Why does it have to be this weird, like, post-psychology concept of gender neutrality, that we're not born with a gender? We are.
Yep.
I mean, it's not just me. This isn't my opinion.
Right.
I've studied psychology. We had to take classes in high school and college about psychology. It was very interesting to me, so I pursued it further. How much of our foundational psychology is based on our male or femaleness? Quite a goddamn bit.
Yep. I agree.
And I don't know. I have no doubt, unlike a lot who share my opinion, I have no doubt that they're well-intentioned, these people. they're trying to create as safe an environment as they can for their kid, which I would never fault anybody for having the desire to do. But, sometimes challenge and hardship and tough issues is what you need to have a well-rounded psyche. Somebody that's never suffered loss is going to take loss really hard. Somebody that has no concept of struggle isn't going to be able to handle struggle.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So on the one hand, of course, protecting your kids is like as biological. I was going to say as male and female, but that's apparently I can't use that example anymore. It's as biological as anything, right? It's the instinctual behavior of human beings, but you got to temper that with some intellectual reasoning. I mean, you can't just tell me now that all of a sudden we've thrown out how many hundreds of years of psychological and biological fact because you want your kid to make sure they don't have any bias, political bias. I just don't. I don't buy it at all. And maybe we should change topics. We're getting too. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole on this one. But I just can't. It blows my mind that that's even happening. I'll tell you what else is blowing my mind right now: the NATO and UN problems we're having with Trump. There's a. I've said it before. I don't actually have that much of an issue with some of his policy decisions.
Right.
It's like the village idiot having a good idea, but it happens frequently in the way that he addresses them. I mean, he's a complete liability socially, diplomatically, I would argue, and the tariffs are a terrible idea.
I would agree with that.
But do not undermine NATO right now, even more so than the 70s, 80s, 90s. I think it would have been better to question NATO then than now, because now we have a resurgent Russia that wants to reestablish their place as a world power, and is, quite frankly, getting what they want. The summit between President Trump and President Putin in Helsinki, I think that's a huge mistake, because you are by doing that, you are legitimizing them on a national level, or on an international, rather, global level. And again, I think it was probably well-intentioned on the part of President Trump, but I think that was a grave mistake, because you are now elevating them. Just look at the difference between Obama and Trump's approach to Russia from a rhetorical perspective. Obama would always say that, Russia, you got a good Obama impression, but Russia is a regional power and all that stuff. And then Trump would be like, no, they're a global power. That's what they want, right? They aren't. They're a regional power. They're not a global power anymore. Soviet Union was. They are not. And they want to be taken seriously. So they're going to keep doing this shit in Syria. They're going to keep fucking around in the Middle East, messing with our plans and opposing us at every turn just because. And then they're going to talk about it in Helsinki. And he's going to leave the G7 summit to go talk with Russia. I mean, that signals a complete 180 on where we've been headed. And I think that's a huge fucking problem. And I think NATO right now is more important than ever to keep our allies close, especially with all these problems we've been having between us and the Turks.
Right.
We don't want them flipping sides. Technically, they got the second largest standing army in NATO. I don't want them defecting.
Right.
And right now, Erdogan's cozying up to Putin, and it's a grave concern to me. But where do you stand on Trump's international relations? Let's just talk Trump in general. If you don't mind me saying so, you were initially enamored with him.
I mean, I've always said I'm conservative first, Trump second. I mean, because it's more about my party and him pushing the politics of what I believe in more so than the guy. Because I think the guy needs to shut the fuck up. I would like for him to seriously just like put the phone down for the next 2 years and just make his policy speak for itself. So he's not riling up the Democratic base to come out and vote heavily in not only the election coming up, which they're going to take the House and Senate back, I believe, heavily.
I think it's likely.
And in 2020, when it's looking more and more like we need a win there because there's gonna be a heavy blue wave. You're gonna need every Republican you can figure out, you can find to get out there to take this thing back. So if he would just stop talking and let his policy do the talking for him, he would be fine, because the left would be deflated because they have nothing to go after. They go after the boogeyman that is like, oh my God, Omarosa is Slappy Steve Bannon and crazy Omarosa. It's like, no, stop saying these things. Just keep signing bills. Keep letting your party do what it's supposed to do and stop saying words. Because I keep hearing all these things that are like, oh man, but Trump's base loves them. Trump's base will still be there if he just stops saying things. They'd still go after and vote for him. But you could also expand the base into more of a middle ground, which is where elections are won, in the middle.
Yeah. I mean, you look at, what was it, like 55% presidential election turnout total of the electorate? I mean, that's pretty low. That's just lower than even, I think, probably the last 3 or 4 U.S. elections, let alone the European democracies' election turnout. And you got to figure that's because people don't feel, one, they don't feel like their vote matters.
Right.
And 2, they don't feel like either candidate is worth changing their behavior.
Right.
Maybe if you haven't been voting. I mean, I don't blame them. Not for one second. If I was a lifelong Republican that hadn't voted in 20 years, Trump wouldn't be the one that would make me start.
No, I feel that.
And vice versa. Absolutely is true with Hillary. But I hate to say it because God knows I don't like the guy that much.
Right.
But from a policy perspective, when you just look on paper and take away all the blasphemous rhetoric that he's spewed, all the nonsense, which, I mean, make no mistake, it's nonsense. But from a policy perspective, he's been a center-right kind of, I mean, the tariffs are a bit off kilter.
Right.
But other than that, it's been a center-right agenda, which is fine. I mean, it's no more or less extreme than George Bush would have pursued probably. And he was a guy I kind of liked. I wish he'd shut up. Same as you.
If he stops talking, then I think the Republicans probably wouldn't have to worry about this. They'd be able to hold it down with the success of the economy alone.
Do you think that if I was a conservative candidate running in like, South Carolina or whatever, do you think it would help if Trump stumped for me?
It's tough. I think in the primary it helps, but in the overall election, not really, because it goes, oh, I'm linked to the in the primary where the hardcores vote, and the only hardcores vote in the primaries from what I found.
Yeah.
It would help to have the president and like a loudmouth president as he is have my back. But in the main thing, for him to be going out there going, yes, everybody should vote for him. He knows exactly what the people want. People in the middle are not going to be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. When you have a person that's able on the other side to sit there and shout about how much of a jackass Trump is, because he can be a complete jackass at times.
Yeah.
So, it's a tough area because you got to be a pretty bulletproof candidate in order to not need his help in the primaries, because somebody in the primary backed by Trump is going to win. But if you could get through the primary without him having your back, then you could probably pull off, I feel like, a win in whatever district you're at.
Yeah, I just, and it's looking, I'm calling it right now. This is as of 8/19/2018. I'm calling that in 2020 they're going to try and run Cory Booker. I think, because why wouldn't they? I mean, who else? Right. Honestly, I wish and I hope that it's Joe Biden.
Right.
Because, like him or not on a philosophical, political level, I have no doubt that he'd be a steady hand at the helm. I don't think that his center-right agenda, or center-left, rather, agenda would be any more or less damaging than Trump's center-right agenda.
Right, because I'd rather it be like that than have somebody that's a total extremist like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren.
Or Ocasio-Cortez.
Right, well, she can't
socialist.
run for 2024, thank God. But, no, she, so yeah, I'd rather have them put a Joe Biden out there than somebody like the extremist that the left is really starting to push, like the Ocasio-Cortezes of the world.
Yeah. I think Joe Biden would have won against Trump last time.
I know Joe Biden would have won against Trump. I know for a fact he would have, because he would have had Barack Obama's true backing instead of the one where Obama gritted his teeth and goes, I really hate her, but, And you
could tell that was what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody gave an enthusiastic endorsement.
Nobody was excited about Hillary Clinton. They just did it because they were like, who else do we have? Martin O'Malley or extremist Bernie Sanders. Nobody in the middle is going to vote for Bernie Sanders because he's an extremist. You're going to get the college kids out there because they hear free college and they go, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. But nobody in the middle wants the taxes that are going to be brought on by a Bernie Sanders economy.
No, honestly, I don't either. I like the guy. I really hate a lot of what he stands for, honestly.
Yep.
I think Trump would have beaten Sanders too. A lot of people disagree with that.
I do.
I really think.
I think it
would have been even lower turnout. Probably. Really? Yeah. I think it would probably have been like 51. maybe even falling below 50. Because you got to think about the super far right guys are going to vote for Trump,
Right.
and the super far left people are going to vote for Sanders. But that middle, the middle is usually only a few percentage points of independent people who are not yet decided. I feel like everyone would have been undecided between Sanders and Trump, because you got two just out of nowhere, historically speaking, candidates, and out of nowhere viewpoints, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people would have stayed home. I probably would have stayed home.
I would probably still vote just because I feel the need to vote. It was my first election, especially, so I had to go out there and vote. I didn't think in a million years I would win. I'd be batting 1,000 in terms of presidential elections today, but you know what, I am. But the idea of Cory Booker being put out there against Donald Trump,
Because who else are they going to run? I mean,
I just gave you a list. And what about the woman from New York, the blonde? I can't remember what her name is.
what's her name? Yeah, it was Cory Booker or somebody else. She's basically like, if Cory Booker is Obama Jr., this lady is Clinton Jr.
Pretty much.
And I just, what are you doing?
The idea of Cory Booker, because I'll say a few positive things about Cory Booker in a second, but the fact that Cory Booker is so bad on the mic makes me extremely excited for the debates that would happen, because,
It'd be strange.
like it or not, Donald Trump on Twitter is an idiot, but Donald Trump on the mic is kind of incredible. He just sits there and picks apart his opponents, which is why he won the Republican nomination, because he sat there and made fun of Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio basically into submission. So to watch him versus Cory Booker, who is almost in tears every time he gets up to the mic.
Yeah, he does,
sounds
doesn't he?
Amazing.
He's always crying.
You got to check out his Netroots speech, man. It's so
I'll check it out.
disingenuous. It's amazing.
I believe it. He's also a huge taker of dollars from private interest. I mean, one of the biggest Democrats and as far as private interest money. So that wouldn't help in a campaign against Trump.
Right.
But real quick, we're coming up to the end here, but I wanted to read something for you that I think is the best story to come out of American politics in the last couple of years.
Okay.
And that's saying something. Okay, this is a New York Times headline. Bigfoot erotica becomes an issue in Virginia congressional campaign.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
What does the world come to?
Leslie Cockburn, a Democratic congressional nominee in Virginia, accused her Republican opponent, Denver Riggleman,
name.
that's his name, on Sunday of campaigning with white supremacists and being the author of a Bigfoot-themed erotica. Yes, you read that correctly. Mrs. Cockburn's accusation, which was made in a tweet, of course it was, on Sunday night, prompted a frenzy of jokes on social media and a denial from the Riggleman campaign.
So I want to meet the guy, because every candidate has like that person that's supposed to go out and find dirt. Who's the one that found that and is like, hey, I got this sweet piece. Okay, Denver Riggleman.
Denver Riggleman, what a name.
Likes Bigfoot erotica.
And his defense was, I was writing a book about people who believed in Bigfoot. There was nothing erotic about it.
It's like that. It's like that idea in Seinfeld where Elaine has the guy make a law for everybody to wear name tags in the cities to be more friendly.
Yeah.
Like that's what that would be like. Like that sounds insane. But I have nothing else. Let's run with it, I guess. Okay.
Well, I suppose that's as good a point as any to end on. Bigfoot erotica is a great closing chapter on this podcast.
I would agree. That's going to be in the title.
Bigfoot erotica.
Bigfoot erotica will be in the title.
It has to be. All right. Thank you for listening to the Smoking Barrels podcast. Mike will now share with you his parting words of wisdom.
Don't do drugs.
I always do this to you. You have no idea what to say. Yes. Okay. Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.
It was better than the first one. Was like, what was it?
Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt. All right. We'll see you guys later.